All right, what's up, guys? It is Thursday night, April the 23rd. We want to welcome you to the program. This is End Time Headlines. Uh, Guys, we know according to when we read the Bible and we read the book of Revelation, especially chapter 13, we get the picture that there is coming this global system of buying, selling, and trading that will require every individual on the planet to take a mark, a number, or the name of the beast, and without it, you will not be able to buy, sell, or trade. Now, there was a time when this seemed to be, outlandish or impossible, but we now, with the technology that we have available, with the infrastructure that we have available, and the way things are heading and the direction that we're heading, we can now see how this is becoming more and more of a reality. Today, on today's program, I'm going to talk about, you remember recently when they've done away with the penny. The only pennies that we see in circulation are older pennies, but they're doing away with this completely, or they have done away with this completely. But now the nickel could be the next to go. So we're slowly seeing the removal of a paper currency. That's very interesting to me. And then there was a major alert that went out recently where AI giant Anthropic released their new mythos. And as a result of this, the Trump administration has summoned America's most powerful bank chiefs to an urgent closed-door meeting, warning that this program could bring down a blue chip company or breach national defense firewalls. And then we got one more story that we're going to talk about, and it's a new federal bill that would bring age verification to every operating system in America. Now, what we're going to do today is we're going to take these stories, we're going to create the framework, and we're going to create the presentation to you and show you and prove to you that once again we are seeing the acceleration toward a cashless society and an Orwellian society where there will be eyes watching everything that we do. We'll have to go through a verification system that will eventually go global. And again, this will, once again, what we're saying here is this is yet another stepping stone toward getting us to where we need to go with Revelation 13. So we got a lot to talk about on this episode. So buckle up. Let's take a journey.
The following program is brought to you by friends and partners of End Time Headlines.
All right, what is going on, guys? Again, it is Thursday night, the 23rd of April. This is End Time Headlines, news and headlines from a prophetic perspective. I'm your host, Ricky Scaprell, the founder, the voice, and the pastor of End Time Headlines. And we've got a good one lined up for you tonight. If you would, you can help us out by hitting that like button here on YouTube, or if you're listening by Apple or by Spotify, you can do that as well. And if you enjoy our content and you find any value in it, please help us out even further by just subscribe, hit that bell notification there on Apple or Spotify. You can do the same as well. Give us a good review there, and that'll push us out there as well. We got a couple announcements, guys, I want to get to before we get into this. So tomorrow night, we've got Britt Gillette coming back and joining us for our Friday night program. This is going to be an interesting one. Operation Rinse and Repeat. He's going to come on with this, and we're going to give you the latest on the Iran saga, what they're saying now, where could it be leading to, what could be the ramifications of this. So don't miss this. Again, this will be tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern. Also, guys, if you do not have our free app yet, please, I want to encourage you to go pick it up today. Our tech team is continuing to make adjustments to this and working out all of the wrinkles and it is looking fantastic. I'm very pleased with the outcome of this. Again, this is the new facelift. If you already have our app, you'll see this. And you got a whole new facelift. It looks great. Again, you can pick it up on your Apple or Android store. Or if you're watching the visual of this, there's a QR code. You can scan that and you can pick that up today. Now, listen, I want to give God some glory real quick. We found out that me and my friend who works on our tech team, he's the head of our tech team that deals with this behind the scenes. It creates the app for us and deals with all of the technicalities, things that goes on behind the scenes with End Time Headlines. I noticed the other night when I went down on the app that the video section wasn't playing. There was no videos coming up. And I reached out to him, try to figure out, and we figured out what was going on. And it's because how we've got this integrated into the app, it has a 10,000 view limit, and we have already surpassed that limitation. So what we've done, we've worked this out. There's a new update coming out. It should be coming out probably in the next 2 to 4 days. And this will remove that limitation and that ceiling. But think about that. How amazing is that we were surpassing 10,000 views on the app, on the video section a day. So to God be the glory. This is a great problem to have. Amen. So again, if you guys have already experienced that, if you try to go into and watch the video section, you'll notice it wasn't able, sometimes it won't work. That's what's going on, but we're getting all that worked out. So again, pick up the app. You'll be blessed. Also, we do have merch for you guys. This has been something that many of you guys have requested. We do have it. We're adding products periodically. So again, we have tumblers, coffee cups, sweatshirts, t-shirts, hats. We've got all kinds of accessories. Again, right there, you can scan the QR code, or you can go to our main website and you'll see, or our app, and you'll see the merch store there if you want to pick up something for you, your family, or help get the word out or spread the word, whatever you'd like to do. So, all right, guys, I want to get right into this. As I said at the introduction of this, and I'm going to pull up this scripture, very familiar passage, Revelation chapter 13. We see here that, again, this false prophet will arise and he will partner with the Antichrist. This will be the duo, the end time main players, the duo that will create this beast system. And you see right here in Revelation chapter 13, verse 16, that he causes all, and that's, again, this is every person on the planet, small and great, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on their right hand or on their foreheads. Again, I'm reading from the New King James. The King James says in. I'm more apt to go with in than I am on. And that no one may buy or sell. This will be an economic system, a financial system of buying and selling, except one who has the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. So don't miss it. The point here that we're telling you is that there's coming a buying, selling, and trading system that will require something in the right hand or in the forehead that will reveal your allegiance that you have pledged to the beast and his system. So some way, somehow, we've got to get there. We may not be there now, but we're taking strides to get to that direction and go in. The compass is pointing in this direction, and it's happening quickly. It's happening a lot faster than what most people think. You look at what just happened in Mexico. Mexico is pushing for they're pushing to be cashless. They're pushing for a national ID. Among their citizens, they're pushing for a national health ID, a digital identification system. They're all fully on board with this stuff, guys. Fully on board with this. And then you have to ask yourself, what other countries are going to follow behind this? Okay, so then we heard, there a while back, the penny, last year, the United States Mint pressed the last penny. In fact, let me pull this article up and I'll show you what I'm talking about here. All right, this is from USA Today. The penny is already dead. Could the nickel be next to go? Again, last year, the U.S. Mint pressed the last penny. Preservationists warn that the death of the 1 cent coin might see dire consequences. Coin shortages at checkout counters, confusion over how to pay bills and not ending in 0 or 5, and higher prices as greedy retailers began rounding everything up. Yet, apart from scattered penny shortages, American society appears to have survived the loss of its least valuable coin. Now, look, I'm going to highlight that part right there. American society appears to have survived the loss of its least valuable coin. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a test run. They wanted to see what would happen in a real life scenario where the beginning of a paper currency is being stripped away. And again, an American society has survived without the penny. Now look at this. Let's scroll on down. Is the nickel next? The question is logical. President Donald Trump killed the penny because the government lost money every time it pressed one. Nickels are money losers too. In fact, nickels are, quote, bigger losers. The Mint spent $3.69 making every penny in 2024. For every nickel, the government spent 13.78 cents, a loss of nearly 9 cents per coin. Added up, and the government lost about $18 million minting pennies in 2024. On the nickel, the Mint lost $85 million. You see where this is going, right? The argument for getting rid of the nickel is that it costs more to produce, quite a bit more actually, than its face value. This is according to David Smith, who is an economist at Pepperdine University. Nickels cost more to make because they are larger than pennies and made of costlier stuff. 75% copper, 25% nickel. Pennies look like copper, but are or were actually made mostly of zinc. All right, ridding America of the penny was a no-brainer. This was according to another economist at Wake Forest University who long argued for ditching the coin. We've got rid of the penny, and I think we should have, he said, because the value of the penny was so small, it wasn't really worth our time to use it. America's growing disdain for the penny was unavoidable. Decades ago, penny could purchase a gumball. Nowadays, the average worker earns about a penny per second. If you spend more than a second with a penny, quote, you've wasted time. Now, I want you to listen to this language and this verbiage they're using, because I'm going somewhere with this, and I think most of you guys are already on track of where this is implying and where we're going. I'm going to skip down here. Many Americans regard both nickels and pennies as more of a nuisance than currency. Stop. Now, guys, you do realize that the younger generation, I'm talking about my oldest son, his generation, he's 18. And even my youngest son, who's 10, I mean, they're right behind him, right on his coattails. They're in the same generation. They look at, a lot of these look at paper currency as a nuisance. They don't want to carry coins. They don't want to carry cash. Most people don't carry cash anymore. Wake up call. They carry cards. They don't have cash. And then you go a step further than that. And then you get a large population of individuals that don't even carry cards anymore. Everything is on their phones. They make all their purchases on Apple Pay or whatever Android's got. And that's how they're paying it. Then you had companies out there like Amazon that, they tried their hand in the palm scan technology. Amazon, what was that? Amazon One, I think is what it was called. And they tried this out at some retail stores and grocery stores and chains, where you just come up and you take your hand and you scan the palm of your hand, and all of your information is tied into that, and it makes that purchase for you. Guys, again, Revelation 13 tells us that the right hand is one of the locations wherein which you can use to make these transactions. So again, it is the conditioning of society to accept and embrace this, okay? So the technology is here for this. And I would venture to say that the longer this goes on, the more and more people that are going to get to the point where they don't see any value of a paper currency. I don't want to carry coins, don't want to carry cash. It's either cards or eventually, I'm going to say eventually it's going to go to implantable devices that be put in your right hand, or let's just say in another form or, when we talk about the forehead, you got to remember you've got these leading innovators like Meta, they're pushing for the virtual reality glasses, and that goes on your head, on your forehead. You got to remember the language that John is trying to describe. John, who wrote the book of Revelation, howbeit Revelation chapter 13, when he saw this in a vision, it was 95 AD. So John is trying to use the language and the descriptions that he had available for him in 95 AD to describe something that he saw way out into the future, into future generations, thousands of years later. So I don't, for those who would say, well, it's something injectable in your forehead, just, again, be open-minded about this, guys, because it may not be. That's why I said the 1611 King James says in the right hand or in the forehead, but your newer translations say on. So I try to be open-minded about this. I've always said that the closer we get to the fulfillment of this, the more clear it's going to become, and the more sharper it will become. That's common sense, and so we're heading in that direction. So the question is, how long will it be until we completely eliminate a paper currency? And even further, let's talk about this. What are some things, you ever thought about this? What are scenarios that would pave the way for a cashless society? Well, I took some notes on this, and I'm going to give you some scenarios that would absolutely set the stage for a complete cashless society. Now, we already know what would take the place of that. They're pushing for a digital currency. And then where does that go to? Again, these implantable devices where all your transactions will be integrated into that device in your body to make those payments. Look, even, who was it? Bill Gates came out and said that his prediction of the next smartphone, the evolution of the next smartphone, will not be like this. It will not be a device that you carry around with you, but howbeit he thinks it'll be digital tattoos, or electronic tattoos that you'll have on your body, and you'll just be able to scan this stuff. You'll be able to make transactions. You'll be able to check all of your social media and your email and everything through this type of technology. All right, so scenario number one, if we were to have a sudden banking collapse triggered by sovereign debt defaults, derivative implosions, a major institution failing, or even a major cyber attack or breach, this could introduce this. Now, I'm going to put a stake up here because I want to pull up an article, because this goes right along what they're concerned about right now. Let me show you this article right here. This is from the Daily Mail. Trump summons bank leaders over terrifying new threat to global financial system. The Trump administration has summoned America's most powerful bank chiefs to an urgent closed-door meeting over an AI model its makers warn could, look at this, bring down a blue-chip company or breach national defense firewalls. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, and Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell convened the session at Treasury headquarters in Washington, D.C. This past Tuesday to address mythos a new model from AI giant Anthropic. Anthropic had announced Mythos the same day, revealing that the model surprised coders by hacking into the company's own networks during an internal testing. This meeting was called at short notice for, look at this, banks classified as systematically important. All right, the meeting was called at short notice for banks classified as systemically important whose stability is considered vital to the global financial system. Among those bosses summoned were Citigroup's Jane Fraser, Morgan Stanley's Ted Pick, Bank of America's Brian Moynihan, Wells Fargo's Charlie Scharf, and Goldman Sachs' David Solomon. Jamie Dimon of JP Morgan was unable to attend. Only around 40 carefully vetted firms have been granted access to Mythos, which arrives off the back of Anthropic's Claude Code, the tool that sent Silicon Valley into a frenzy with its ability to, quote, generate entire programs from a single line of text. The Pentagon is already a customer, having deployed Anthropic's earlier models in the operation to seize Nicolas Maduro and during the Iran conflict. Anthropic said it had held discussions with U.S. officials ahead of the release, but Mythos and its offensive and defensive cyber capabilities. The Treasury has been contacted for comment, but the Fed declined to comment. I'm going to scroll down here and read this. The AI giant released a chilling analysis of Mythos this week as it, look at this, it admitted the new model could easily hack into hospitals, electrical grids, power plants, and other pieces of critical infrastructure. During tests, Anthropic says that Mythos found thousands of high-severity vulnerabilities, including some in every major operating system and web browser. All right, in a blog post detailing the dangerous new model, Anthropic says that, quote, AI models have reached a level of coding capability where they can surpass all but the most skilled humans at finding and exploiting software vulnerabilities. So guys, this is what I'm trying to say here, is this again, we're giving you scenarios here. This could be a real scenario that brings down the entire financial system, the global financial system. Now, if this were to happen, people in droves would rush to withdraw cash, but banks would impose limits and eventually they would shut down withdrawals. The government would be forced to step in and announce emergency bank holidays. They would introduce, no doubt, a digital-only transaction system to, quote, stabilize liquidity. Gradual phase out of a physical currency to prevent future bank runs. In this scenario, cash would be seen as a threat to financial stability, accelerating its removal. Are you hearing what I'm saying? So this is these scenarios, guys. Then let's talk about this. The introduction of a central bank digital currency, or CBDC, during a crisis. All right? A recession, a depression, a cyber attack like this. And what this means is stimulus checks would then only be distributed via digital wallets. Tax refunds and benefits would require digital accounts. You don't have a digital account, you don't get your tax refund, you don't get your benefits, you don't get your stimulus check. Businesses, receive faster settlements using CBDC. Eventually, cash transactions are taxed, they're limited, or they're completely discouraged from being used. See, this is what I'm talking about, guys. That's what, when I read these articles about we did away with the penny, it was successful, Americans tolerated it, now we're going for the nickel. What's next? The dime, the quarter. Why? Because it costs more. Again, that's their excuse is, well, we're losing money to print money. So common sense, if we're losing money to print money, let's just stop printing money altogether. Let's get rid of a completely a paper currency. Let's just get rid of it altogether and let's go to a CBDC. So this, again, what would that mean? It would mean that digital currency would become the default economic system that creates a soft transition that becomes permanent. Then let's go back to 2020, the pandemic. under a global health crisis, and they were pushing this, guys, even back in 2020, if we were to have another global health crisis or emergency, and by the way, all of the elites and the who's who are all telling us it's not a matter of if, but when this happens, that this would absolutely push everything to be contactless. Everything. Why? Because viruses survive on paper currency. And therefore, the governments and the health agencies would all want to do away with that. So we want to make everything contactless. All businesses would refuse cash entirely, and digital payments would be framed as a, quote, public safety measure. And then over time, the temporary policy would become normalized and cash would eventually cease to operate as it once was. Now listen to this one. Here's something you don't think about. Major war or geopolitical conflicts can do this. A large-scale conflict between major powers can lead to currency manipulation, sanctions freezing physical assets, and disruption of global cash supply chains. Now, we're going to have Brit in here tomorrow, but we're already seeing the energy disruption, oil disruption. All of this is already happening. So if this thing drags on and continues, well, this could be a real scenario here. So what that will do is that will put pressure on these governments because they would want a fully traceable digital system to control capital flow. You would have instant transaction enforcements via programmable money, and then cash would become impractical in a digitally controlled wartime economy. Here's another scenario. We're talking about hyperinflation or currency collapse. This kind of goes with what we said at the beginning. But if a national currency were to rapidly lose its value, think about World War II. Think about the time of Hitler. Cash becomes bulky to use, too unstable to trust. Authorities step in. A new digital currency would be introduced with controlled supply, expiration dates, and programmable spending to stabilize demand would be introduced, and the population would adopt to it out of necessity. Now, here's a big one, is the advancement of big tech financial dominance, which is happening. Companies like Apple, Google, and Amazon expand financial ecosystems, and they offer seamless payments, rewards, instant credit, integrated commerce. Eventually, retailers would stop accepting cash due to efficiency. So in the beginning, cash wouldn't necessarily get banned. It would just become obsolete because of the evolution of technology and what we're coming to make payments. Who can see this, guys? Chime in. Let me know in the comments what you think about these scenarios. Now, here's another one I thought was interesting. A major grid failure or natural disaster that would disrupt traditional banking and distribution systems. So, in other words, like an infrastructure collapse, a cyber attack, an EMP. Now, all of this would cause governments to implement a smart infrastructure. A digital ID plus payment system would be integrated from the ground up, and cash is not introduced because the new system would be fully digital. Again, tell me this is not what they want to do. This all falls into the Great Reset, this system that they have been pushing since 2020. Now look at this headline. U.S. Space Command warns Russia is planning a, quote, space Pearl Harbor with nuclear weapon in orbit. Again, you can do what you want with this. I'm just relaying this information to you. All right, Russia is reportedly developing a nuclear weapon designed to be deployed in space that could cripple global communications and cause widespread disruption. Hello, sounds like an EMP, an electromagnetic pulse bomb. General Stephen Whiting, who is the head of U.S. Space Command, has admitted that Washington is, quote, very concerned about plans to place a nuclear anti-satellite weapon into orbit. In fact, let's see if we can watch a little bit of this.
Second country on that list would be Russia. Russia remains a very historic and sophisticated space power. Yes, they have been hurt by economic sanctions, but they continue to invest in counter space weapons, with the most concerning reports being that they are potentially thinking about placing on orbit a nuclear ASAT weapon that would violate the Outer Space Treaty that they're a party to, and it would hold at risk everyone's satellites in low Earth orbit, and that would be a outcome that we just couldn't tolerate.
I mean, if the worst happened and there was a nuclear detonation in space, what would the impact be?
Yeah, depending on the size of that detonation and where it happened, we could expect that likely immediately within the first several hours to days, probably 1/3 of all satellites in low Earth orbit, and that's an altitude of about 100 miles up to probably about 1,200 miles. That's where the International Space Station is, so it would put at risk those astronauts. It's where the Chinese space station is, those takenauts. And then over the next several months, the remaining 2/3 of satellites in low Earth orbit would degrade and likely fail due to the increased radiation that would be there due to that nuclear weapon exploding on orbit. So all of low Earth orbit would be at risk. And, that's over 10,000 satellites today with these new proliferated low Earth orbit constellations like Starlink.
Wow, guys. So again, this would absolutely be this would be a catastrophe for our nation if they were to strike America with this. This would collapse the whole system, and they would rebuild, if you would, a system that would be completely digital. And then this last scenario, and I kind of touched on this earlier, and when we were talking about this, but the last one would be just a cultural generational shift. Again, younger generations are growing up never using cash. You've got physical wallets are disappearing, peer-to-peer apps are dominating. Businesses are stopped. Many businesses don't even handle cash anymore due to cost and risk. We're only about 1 or 2 generations away from doing away with check writing. That's pretty much obsolete. I mean, very few people I know even use checks anymore. And paper currency, fax machines, all of this stuff is just being obsolete, and we're coming to a society that will fully be ready to embrace the beast system. Now, I want to show you this. This is from gadgetreview.com. Look at this. New federal bill would bring age verification to every operating system in America. All right, let's give you the key takeaways of this. HR 8250 mandates age verification APIs across Windows, Mac OS, and Linux systems. The apps default to child-restricted settings when operating systems lack age signals. Open source Linux distributions face $7,500 fines for non-compliance with verification requirements. So this is being forced. Let me read this. Your laptop might soon demand proof of age before letting you browse it freely. This HR 8250, which is a federal bill winding through Congress, requires every operating system provider in America to verify user ages and expose that data through APIs. This is no longer limited to social media apps. We're talking about the core software running your PC, smartphone, and smart home devices. The bill mirrors California's AB 1043, which passed unanimously and takes effect on January 2027. So that's coming up next year, guys. Similar legislation is advancing in Colorado, Illinois, Louisiana, New York, Texas, and Utah. So the Pandora's box is already open. This is gone. The dominoes are falling. It's going to hit every state. The pattern is clear. Age gating is coming to your desktop whether you like it or not. Now, on one hand, you're like, well, I don't see a problem with this, Brother Ricky. This is going to protect minors. This will reduce the risk for children to, fall into the hands of predators and this and that and etc. That's the carrot on the stick, guys. Because I want to talk to you. Let's scroll down here for a second. Look at this. Critics argue the legislation enables government monitoring while failing to protect minors. The Electronic Frontier Foundation argues these mandates strike at the foundation of the free and open internet. They're not wrong. Creating government-mandated user tracking systems affects everyone, not just kids. Your age verification data becomes another point for potential surveillance abuse. So let me drive this home. This is going to be our last topic that we're going to talk about when we close out this podcast. So think about this. Let's go back to Revelation 13, because that's the whole core of our conversation here. How in the world could we get to a foundation for this system where, again, you have a universal a system that is tracking every age group, every ethnicity, every geographical location, etc. This system describes a system where no one can buy or sell unless they have a specific mark or identification. Now think about this. The operating system that they're talking about of this new federal bill will be a gatekeeper by moving verification into the operating system, Windows, Mac OS, Linux, Android. And so in other words, you have a device in your hand, you have a computer, you're not getting out of this. The government creates a permanent digital layer between the user and the world. Why does that matter? Well, this bill mandates that the OS providers, that's the operating system, by the way, it requires that providers expose age data through APIs. While currently limited to age, this creates the technical plumbing for a universal digital identification system. And that's, ladies and gentlemen, they have been drooling over this for a long time now. This is what they want. And once this infrastructure exists to verify who you are or how old you are to access the internet, it can be expanded to include financial status, your records of whether you have the jab or not, and your political loyalty. Let me repeat that again. It's the introduction of this is your age, who you are, and this gets you the introduction into this. This gets you access to the internet, the free world of the internet. But what happens when they expand this to your financial status, your jab records, and your political loyalty? Think about it. Okay, then when you were reading this article, when we were digging this through, the article mentions that if an operating system cannot provide a verified signal, the internet becomes nerfed. They call this nerfed or restricted. So this is introducing exclusion. If you refuse to participate in the digital ID system, you are functionally removed from modern society, unable to access news, services, or commerce altogether. Hello. So I want you to think about this. This bill suggests that privacy or open source freedom would result in a digital handicap. It would force users to comply to regain full utility of their devices. This is unbelievable, guys. Most people, you'll read this stuff and you skip over this. We don't think about this stuff. So think about this. We're transitioning from personal computing to state-supervised digital experiences. So what this is a major shift in sovereignty. If the state dictates the terms under which your own hardware functions, the device is no longer yours. Think about it. It is now become a tool of the state, and they determine who can access it and who cannot. I mean, think about this. The critics of this HR 8250 argue that child safety is a mask used to implement a surveillance state. And when you read Revelation 13, I'm going to wrap this up right here. Revelation 13 is no doubt a global system. This bill is quickly being adopted by multiple states and federal entities. And this a rapid synchronized movement towards a single standard of digital gating reflects, again, the description of what we read about of all, both small, great, rich, and poor, brought under the same requirement. So here we have this bill, that the prerequisite of this bill is that in order to accept the identity of the user, they must be verified by a central authority to access the marketplace. The mark of the beast. You will be centralized by a central authority as well, called the Antichrist and the false prophet. And you will not be able to access the marketplace. You won't be able to buy, sell, or trade, howbeit without the mark. So, ladies and gentlemen, again, we're getting closer and closer and closer to the fulfillment. Everything is, and I keep saying this, the framework is here. The tools, the framework, the technology, the innovation, the know-how, the knowledge shall be increased, and many shall run to and fro. All of that is here, guys. We're literally waiting on the timing of the Lord. When the fullness of times has come, then all of this is going to quickly fall into place. This is why I'm telling you that we're closer than ever, I believe this, to the catching away, the gathering together of the church. Because once the restrainer is removed from the earth, then this system will be fully inundated. It will be fully functional in society. But look at this, put all this together and listen to what I'm telling you. The stepping stones are leading to milestones, and eventually we will be in the front door, and we will be in the very system that John the Revelator warned us about in Revelation 13. I leave you with Luke 21:28. Jesus said, when you begin to see all of these things coming to pass, look up and lift up your heads, for your redemption is drawing near. Again, guys, don't forget endtimeheadlines.org, endtimeheadlines.com. That's going to be our main website where you can find us. And again, if you don't have our free app, please pick it up today. You can scan that QR code. You can download it from Apple or Android. Hit yes to push notifications. You're going to be squared away. You're going to have everything right there at your fingertips. Don't forget, tomorrow night, right here, 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern, we've got Britt Gillette, and we're going to go over the latest with Iran and the ramifications of what is coming next from this. So, guys, until we see you tomorrow night, don't forget, if this ministry bless you, encourage you, equips you, and you'd like to know more about partnering with the End Time Headlines, we wanted you to watch this quick video on how to do that, and we'll be right back.
If you enjoy our content and would like to partner with End Time Headlines, helping us make more people aware of the times and seasons which we are in from a prophetic perspective, you can go to endtimeheadlines.org and click Support. Here you can give a one-time gift or a monthly pledge on our main website. This page also shows you how to give electronically through Cash App or Venmo. If you would like to give by check or money order, you can make it out to End Time Headlines at P.O. Box 1391, Monroe, Georgia 30655. Or you can give through our free End Time Headlines app by pressing the bottom right button that says Donate.
All right, guys, I want to give a quick shout out to, again, all of our partners and supporters of our ministry. You know who you are, those who support us either electronically, through checks in the mail, through letters, through gifts that you guys give us, cards that you give us. Again, we love you, we appreciate you, and thank you so much. And if it was not for our partners, we would not be able to do what we do on a week-to-week basis. So we love and appreciate all of you. Thank you so much. And until we see all of you guys on the next program, I pray that the Lord bless you, keep you, and may his countenance shine upon you. We'll see you soon.
Thank you for listening to the End Time Headlines podcast. We pray that you've been blessed and equipped by today's message. For more information about how you can help partner with our ministry, please visit endtimeheadlines.org.